What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Best of the Rest sports betting show here. This is a show where I'm going to be doing every week, and I'm going to be highlighting sports that don't really get a lot of press, especially here in the United States media. So we're talking about golf, tennis, soccer, UFC, Formula One, and some other sports as well. But this past weekend was amazing, right? We had a awesome melding of different sports from the US Open, the Live tournament, and all the drama surrounding that. So we'll get into that very soon, as well as the UFC. There was a fight night that was held in Austin, Texas on Saturday night. And then we're going to get into Formula One. There was the Canadian Grand Prix Sunday afternoon. Very, very surprising results there. And then we'll touch a little bit about soccer and tennis to close out today's first episode ever. Again, I'm going to be doing this every week. We're going to have guests on the show. We're going to be talking about stories, sports betting angles, everything that you can imagine in regards to sports that just doesn't get enough TV time, especially on the major networks. All right, so I'll just go ahead and jump into the US Open first. Full disclosure, I was out of town this weekend, so I didn't get to catch every single swing, every single golf shot by the players, but I did follow that final round, and it was a great, dramatic final round in that fourth round there in Brookline, Massachusetts. So Matt Fitzpatrick ended up winning. He had an amazing par save, I believe on 15 or 16. It was like a 50-foot bomb that he saved for par right after Will Zalatoris hit the birdie putt. So he went into the final hole there up one stroke. Will Zalatoris and Scotty Scheffler were down one. Scotty was already in the clubhouse at -6. Willie Z had I guess like a 20-foot left to right putt to birdie it and hopefully tie the score there. He obviously ended up short, and Matt Fitzpatrick ended up winning the US Open. It was his first win on tour. I believe there's only 7 or 8 guys whose first win came at a major. So props to him. But other couple notable stories I wanted to mention. So yeah, after Matt Fitzpatrick, you had Scotty Scheffler, who showing the world he is the best golfer in the world right now. As of June 20th, 2022, he is the best golfer right now. He's just so consistent. Ended up T2 with Willie Zalatoris. And then you have Hideki and Colin Morikawa and Rory McIlroy to round up the top 5. So you had some major names, big players there. And Matt Fitzpatrick was the guy who rose to the top, the cream of the crop, if you will. Some other notables here that are, top 10 in the rankings that had a really bad final round. And I'm glad from a betting perspective, there was just no value backing these guys in that fourth round, especially in head-to-head matchups. But Jon Rahm, who I think is the best golfer when it comes to short game, off the tee, putting, especially in clutch circumstances, but he scored a 4-over final round. Sam Burns, who's top 10 in the FedEx Cup right now, scored a 6-over final round. And then Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, who came in the tournament with a lot of notoriety and energy around them, they both shot 4-over in the final round as well. So those 4 players ended up shooting 18 strokes above par between the 4 of them. And, they were basically favored to not only win, but definitely contend for top 5, top 10, top 20. And they ended up faltering on that final day. Cameron Smith here, he was a popular pick heading into the week in terms of daily fantasy sports, as well as outright betting, matchup betting. He ended up missing the cut here, which is a very disappointing performance on his behalf. One of the better putters in the game. But a missed cut here at the US Open. And then 3 guys that I wanted to mention here that are part of the Live Tour, the Saudi Arabian back tour here. Dustin Johnson, he ended up finishing T24. Not bad, but not that good for someone of his caliber and his pedigree, who's won before and has been the number 1 golfer in the world for several weeks and months prior to this. So DJ with a T24, and then the 2 other golfers here that make up the Live Tour and kind of like the face of the tour. Phil Mickelson with a miscut, and Sergio Garcia with a miscut. So not a great showing for the golfers that defected the PGA Tour, joined the Live Tour, and were able to get exemptions to play in this U.S. Open, but ended up missing the cut anyway. So that's a quick recap on the U.S. Open and the golf happenings in the world of golf. From a betting perspective, if you were able to pick up Fitzpatrick or Scheffler or Zalatoris, Scheffler was one of the favorites coming in, but Zalatoris and Fitzpatrick were pretty much mid to long shots. Fitzpatrick ended up leading after the third round, which was a nice round leader prop bet there, and he ended up winning the entire tournament as well. So it's actually pretty rare for a golfer to not only lead in the third round and then lead at the end of the fourth round as well. So props to him. All right, moving on here to the UFC. So I was in Austin this past weekend. The UFC was coincidentally also in Austin. I didn't go to the fights. I did have tickets to it. I had kids with me, just didn't want to spend too much time with that. But quick recap here. So it was Emmett versus Kattar. That was the main event there. It was a fight night, so everything was free on ESPN Plus. It's cool when the main event actually becomes the fight of the night. So this was a big stand-up, brutal, balls to the wall, a lot of punching, a lot of striking. There wasn't many, if any, ground game, if I remember, but there was a lot of blood. The winner here by split decision was Emmett, which was a little bit surprising. Anytime you have a split decision in the UFC, you just never know, to be honest. So from a betting perspective, he was the underdog. That's a nice little win there for plus money bettors. But this was, like I said, a really perplexing decision here by the judges. We all know UFC judges may have their own vendetta for things, but Kattar actually led in terms of total strikes, significant strikes. There was no control by either guy on the ground, so that was a wash there. But with that being said, man, props to Emmett again, underdog. He's now 18-2 in the UFC, so he's going to be fighting. He's going to be taking a big step in competition very soon. But the card ultimately was a huge success, in my opinion. Again, it was just a fight night, so everything was free. You're not going to see the big names, even though Cerrone and guys like that did fight. But we had a total of 8 TKOs, which is awesome. That means a lot of guys and gals were getting knocked out. They were seeing stars in the skies. But knockouts usually means the underdog, which is what we saw on Saturday night. We had about 15, 16 fights, and half of them ended up in TKOs, which gives the underdog a fighter's chance, if you will. So a lot of the favorites ended up losing on Saturday night. So if you were betting favorites in UFC, notoriously and historically is a pretty, favorite enriched sport, very juicy sport, chalky sport, but ended up being a underdog type of night. We kind of saw that in MLB last night too. I think underdogs went 11-4 in the MLB last night, which is rare for such a favorite enriched sport. But we'll get to that later. All right, so the next event here is Formula One. So this is the Canadian Grand Prix set in Montreal. If you guys follow me, Analytics Capper, you guys know I'm a big Formula One fan, and this race was not disappointing one bit. Max Verstappen ended up winning. Red Bull has far and away the best car right now as of June 2020, 2022 into the season. So about a third or 2/5 of the way into the season, they do have the fastest car. Lewis Hamilton, who had all the issues in the world, couldn't even drive on Friday and was complaining that the car was just something that he couldn't drive, and he ended up finishing third at the race on Sunday. So he ended up grabbing a podium, which is nice for him as well as his Mercedes team. George Russell finishes in the top 4. He ended up being 4th. He's the only driver this season out of all the drivers. There's only 20 drivers, right? But he's the only one that's had a top 5 in every single race so far. Charles Leclerc, he ended up being the driver of the day. Due to just some penalties during qualifications, he ended up at the back of the grid on Sunday in 19th place. Is where he started, and he ended up in 5th. So he moved up 14 spots, which is the biggest move of the year so far. His teammate Carlos Sainz ended up runner-up, so second between Max and Lewis Hamilton. But a quick recap there: he had newer tires, fresher tires, those last 10 laps of the race, and he had the DRS, and he still cannot catch up to Max. It's incredible how fast Red Bull are in the straights and how great of a driver Max Verstappen is. And I wanted to point that out because Carlos Sainz is not second fiddle to anybody. He's a great driver too, in a great car with Ferrari, and he just couldn't pass Max with all of those advantages, especially with their fresher tires. But I do want to point out that Max is now 9th all-time in total wins in Formula One. I think if you are going to bet this sport and bet players and drivers, Max Verstappen is still the best bet, because he's being undervalued by books right now, whether it's podiums, wins, world championship title, constructors championship title, all of it. When it comes to Max and Red Bull, I think they're still very, very vastly undervalued. So I would jump on that. But he is 9th all time in wins with 26, and he is only 24 years old. That means he's going to drive at least 10, 12, 15 more years. The record is Lewis Hamilton with just over 100 wins. I think Max is going to be able to compete and contend with that. So look into Red Bull and Max futures if you're looking to bet. Many of the larger outlets are going to have Formula One futures, so definitely jump on to that. Okay, a couple other sports I wanted to get into: tennis and soccer. So tennis right now, there's a lot of tune-up tournaments into Wimbledon. Wimbledon is about a week away. I think we're starting qualifications today, or qualifiers, I'm sorry. But we had 4 or 6 tournaments over the weekend that completed on Sunday or Saturday night, depending where you are. And these are all grass tournaments again, right? These are tune-ups for the Wimbledon Championships, which is on grass. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to 4 of the winners on Sunday. Matteo Berrettini, he won the Cinch Championships. He is one of the better players in the world, especially on fast hard courts. And that's a very similar type of playing style when you're talking about grass. The thing with him, though, is he's going to be matched up against arguably the greatest grass player ever, and that's Djokovic. So it's hard to bet against Novak Djokovic in this Wimbledon upcoming tournament. But I think if you're looking for someone who has the potential to upset him or get into a final, it would be Matteo Berrettini. All right, next tournament here is the Tara Workman Open. This is also on grass. Huge props to Hubert Hurkacz. He beat Medvedev. Medvedev is, I believe, the number 1 ranked player in the world. Is always between him, Djokovic, and others. But as far as points right now, currently June 2022, he is the number 1 ranked player, and he's lost back-to-back finals now. He lost to Tara Workman on Sunday, and he lost the previous tournament before that as well, both on grass. But I think as far as form and fit is concerned, Medvedev is looking great. The only issue with him is the Wimbledon Championships are banning everybody from, I believe, Russia and Georgia or Belarus, one of those countries. So I should probably look that up. But Medvedev is a Russian. He's unable to play at Wimbledon, which is a really, really big bummer for him, as well as tennis fans all around the world, because it could be an easy path for someone like Novak Djokovic to win. It is his tournament to lose. If I were to bet this tournament right now, it'd definitely be Djokovic as a future. And then depending on how the tournament goes from round to round, I would hedge that with other bettors or other tennis players as well. So quick shout out to Berrettini and Hurkacz. And then on the women's side, don't forget about the women's. Props to Serena Williams. She's going to be playing the Wimbledons as a qualifier. So she's going to be playing extra matches. She at this point of her career stage of her life, she's not going to play in every tournament anymore. She's not even going to play in every single major anymore. So the fact that we get to see as tennis fans watch her, for one of the last times again at Wimbledon is going to be awesome because she is arguably the greatest ever. And I think undoubtedly she's the greatest grass player ever on the women's side. But quick shout out to Haddad Maya, who won the Birmingham Classic there in London. She beat Simona Halep in the semis and then beat Zhang in the finals. Zhang ended up retiring. I think it was like 3-2 in the first set. She had just finished a very, very tough semifinal match. She ended up retiring in that finals, but a win is still a win for Maya, so props to her. And then Jabber, who won the Berlin Open. This is a larger tournament, WTA 500. She won and beat Bencic 6-3, 2-1. This was also another retire in the second set there, but Jabber was dominating the match. She was dominating that second set as well. So she was on her way to another title. So props to those 4 tennis players. And then the final sport I wanted to get into is soccer. Soccer is actually in its off season right now, or sorry, football, if you're European. It's in the off season right now, which means there's a lot of player movement. I know here a lot of fans in the States, when you're looking at, NFL or NBA or even MLB, free agencies and trades and things like that are very, very exciting. For those who don't know, football, European football, aka soccer, there's way much more of that happening. And every transfer window or every offseason is even more action-packed than what we see in the NBA or NFL. So I do want to mention some of the big guys that have already made transfers and how much money they've signed up for and what I think that means from a betting perspective. So the first one I want to mention is Haaland. Haaland went from Dortmund to Manchester City. City was in the finals of the Champions League as well as a couple other, tournaments, but they ended up losing to Madrid. They've reloaded now with basically the guy that everybody chased, right? Not only this offseason, but the last several off seasons. But it was a $66 million transfer to Manchester City. Total market value is 165 mil. So he's getting paid a pretty good wage there. Darwin Núñez for Liverpool. This was also a really big move. It ended up being an $80 million transfer fee for Darwin Núñez to Liverpool. Center forward here. He is an amazing player in terms of his skill level, and at the age that he's at and his athleticism, I think it's going to be a huge addition for Liverpool. I wanted to mention those two first because I think it's going to be Man City in the English Premier League, and I don't think it's going to be close. I know I just talked about Núñez and Liverpool and things like that, but I think it's a great time right now to hop onto Man City futures when it comes to the EPL. And then if you want to do that, I would also do the Champions League. I think it's Man City or bust as well. Their team is just so far and away better than everyone. Pep Guardiola is still arguably the best coach in the game, and I think they're super hungry going into this next season because they haven't won the Champions League now in his 9-year tenure in Manchester City. I think this is the year they get it done. I think they might go for multiple trophies this week or this upcoming season. Sorry about that. A couple other notable transfers. Antonio Rudiger went from Chelsea, free transfer over to Real Madrid to help bolster up that defense. He's there going to be their starting center back. He is up there in age. I think he turns 30 right before the season starts. So I thought it was a great move for Chelsea to let him go. And also a good move for Madrid because they are in the business of winning championships and trophies right now. And I think he gives them a better shot. One more guy I wanted to mention is Ryan Gravenberch, one of the young up-and-comer guys when it comes to guys under 21, under 22 that is going to take more of a leadership role and more starting role in football. But Gravenberch went from he went from Ajax, and now he's at Bayern. So Bayern is actually going to be retooling themselves. They were one of the best clubs in all of Europe for a while there. They still are, but they're still missing, that piece or pieces to really compete with the Liverpools, Real Madrids, as well as the Man Cities. I think picking up someone like a Gravenberch is the right step, or the step in the right direction, but they're still missing a couple top tier, high caliber players, especially with Robert Lewandowski leaving. And then one final thing is the never ending saga with Romelu Lukaku. He is currently with Chelsea, barely played last season. It was like a 95 or $100 million contract that he signed with Chelsea. It ended up being, I'm going to say it, probably the biggest bust of a contract in European football history. He's trying to make his way back to Inter Milan, which is where he came from right before Chelsea. And the two sides are trying to negotiate a deal. I would say, in my opinion, I think it's a great time to fade Chelsea from a betting perspective. We all know they've been overperforming. They've had really, really amazing record in 1-0 type games. I don't know if that's going to last. I am a big proponent of their coach, Thomas Tuchel, but as far as metrics and analytics go, I think it's a great time to fade Chelsea. They might fall outside of the top four in the English Premier League. So look for bets like that. A team that would jump into it would be someone like a Tottenham. If they're able to keep Son and Kane together and continue to build that midfield, I think Tottenham can jump into the top four. But we'll see. It's still really early in the transfer window. That pains me to say because I am a Chelsea fan, but I think they're just missing. They're basically shipping out 5 starters, and they haven't signed any new starters to replace those guys yet. So with that being said, new ownership, new management, I think it's just a bad year in terms of transition. And from a betting perspective, I think it's a great opportunity for us to really take advantage of that. So yes, to recap, to review, I think City is going to win the upcoming Premier League in England. I think they're also going to win the Champions League in terms of the tournament there. Liverpool is most likely going to be second in the English Premier League. I also see Tottenham jumping into the top 4, which is going to be really good news for them. Real Madrid, they were kind of like the team of destiny this past season in Europe as well as La Liga. But I don't think that they're going to have enough. Maybe that, that magic is going to wear out when it comes to Champions League. So I am fully on the City train. I'm a big, big fan of Pep and what he does from a coaching perspective, a strategy perspective, and as well as just handling all the different personalities within a locker room. I think he's second to none when it comes to that. So give me City futures, man. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for jumping on today. I'm going to be doing this again every single week. It is called the Best of the Rest, where we follow and highlight and really speak about some of the sports that does not get enough attention here in the U.S. Soccer, tennis, golf, UFC, Formula One, and others. I'm going to have guests on here as well, and we're going to get into more of the betting perspectives and angles and angles and signals like that. So thank you again. Please give my sponsor Scores and Odds a follow. They are the best. If you haven't checked out their website, we're giving out free VIP memberships for people who check out the show and retweet. It's a premium account where you can get, the latest in terms of analytics, connections, trends, and also there's a proprietary model on the website that helps projects some of the winners, losers, over and unders when it comes to props and player props, things like that. So definitely check out Scores and Odds for all your betting needs. Everybody, thank you again.